Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
This will give people some breathing room and peace of mind.
Pandemic payout, a promise to have BC's COVID-19 recovery benefit in bank accounts by the end of the month. Also,
well, obviously for the PNE, we were very pleased.
No train, no skating, no lights. How some popular holiday events are going ahead, and
it's movement in the right direction. I can't help but smile.
Officers charged. 2 Vancouver police constables facing assault charges over the takedown of a black man.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. You will soon be able to receive a little extra cash this Christmas. The BC government announcing its recovery benefit plan today.
But the checks are not automatic. You will have to apply for them, and it's based on your income from last year before the pandemic hit. Our Dan Burrett joins us now with more live. So, Dan, first of all, who can apply and how much will they get?
The province says 3.7 million out of the 5 million or so people who are in BC are eligible. And you can start applying December 18th online. Take a look. How much you get is based on your income. Families with incomes under $125,000 can get up to $1,000. It's slightly less for families earning up to $175,000. Single-parent families also qualify. Now, single people with incomes under $62,500 can receive $500, and it's again slightly less for single people earning up to $87,500. People receiving government assistance already can also apply, and they get a little extra. People getting income or disability assistance qualify, as do low-income seniors getting the seniors supplement. And all those people qualify for an extra $150 a month from January to March of next year. As we mentioned, you can start applying online on December 18th. If you want to call, you can start dialing December 21st. Keep in mind, you have to be 19 years or older, and you need to have filed a 2019 tax return. The finance minister says she's confident people will receive the money within weeks.
We expect hundreds of thousands of British Columbians to have their benefit directly deposited into their bank accounts before the end of this year. This will give people some breathing room and peace of mind.
But Dan, the opposition has some serious concerns about who can and can't receive this benefit?
Yes, especially when it comes to income. Here's the catch. The benefit is based on people's 2019 tax returns, as we said. We know the pandemic started closing a swath of businesses in March of this year. So even if someone is unemployed now, they may not be able to get this recovery money.
Somebody who lost their job in February, who was working last year, who genuinely needs supports now, may not qualify because they were actually, before COVID impacts hit, they were working, and that's what this money is going to be based upon.
The finance minister argues if they were to wait for people's 2020 tax returns, British Columbians wouldn't receive a benefit until much later. So while you can apply for the benefit, it's based on what you earned before the pandemic hit. Tanya, Mike?
All right, thanks so much, Dan. That's our Dan Burrett reporting live tonight. Well, meanwhile, the latest case numbers out of BC are showing some encouraging signs. That's according to Dr. Bonnie Henry.
Sadly, however, another 16 people have died in our province, bringing BC's total to 543. There are 566 new cases of the virus today. BC is now nearing 39,000 total cases of COVID-19. Currently, there are more than 9,300 active cases.
Hospitalizations are on the rise again, now sitting at 352. 74 of those are in critical care. Of today's new cases, Fraser Health is seeing a drop in its case rate, which today is at just 52%. That's after being over 60% for the past month. And cases continue to climb outside of the Lower Mainland. However, just over 23% of new cases are on the island, interior health and northern health regions.
And some good news from the Premier today on the vaccine front. John Horgan tweeting out that the first doses are just days away and that 4,000 high-risk people in BC will be immunized by the end of next week. Health officials will announce details on the province's immunization rollout tomorrow.
And now that restrictions on holiday gatherings are confirmed right through Christmas, many people are having to rethink their plans.
For most, this holiday season is going to be a lot simpler.
It is a little bit more close-knit this year, but you know, the holiday spirit's still there.
We are staying home. No grandchildren, no children, it's that.
Just to need to be quiet for about these years and waiting that we have the vaccine and we can celebrate many other Christmas.
And the lights are also officially off on many popular holiday events in BC. However, some, like drive-thrus, are still allowed.
Organizers are scrambling to get those events up and running now, and as Andrea Ross reports, others had plans in place much earlier.
We're building a massive purple Christmas tree in front of me. We've got light setup going on around the site. We're pushing very hard in order to be able to open on Saturday.
Winter Lights at the PNE is one of the few holiday events that hasn't been canceled in the past 24 hours. The province is allowing drive-thrus and not much else. It's a format the PNE has become accustomed to this year.
We've been able to keep some of our people working. We've been able to support some of our food concessionaire families that have been so impacted by COVID.
But elsewhere, it's anything but the usual. The Van Dusen Festival of Lights is canceled. So is the Bright Nights Christmas train in Stanley Park. Even the skating rink in Robson Square. The list keeps growing. And it's a big blow to charities that rely on these events.
We fully support the order, fully support the work of Dr. Henry and the health minister. But from a fundraising standpoint and the interaction we have with the public, it was very disappointing.
The Bright Nights Christmas Train is the biggest fundraising event of the year for the BC Professional Firefighters Burn Fund. It typically raises $500,000. They're planning a 50-50 to make up for it and hoping the public shows up.
We need their help this time. Our biggest fundraiser is not there this year.
With Hanukkah 2 days away, this Vancouver synagogue has long been prepared for tightened restrictions.
It's ready to go, and it'll just be used in a different capacity this year, but for the same purposes.
No drive-ins, but they'll be doing drop-offs.
We're actually delivering Hanukkah gift boxes to every member of our synagogues.
Hundreds of them with dozens of volunteers chipping in.
We have some delicious jelly donuts, chocolate cream donuts, Bavarian cream donuts.
It's not exactly how things were supposed to go.
I don't want to say, we're used to this now, because we don't ever want to be used to this. We want to be together.
But the small things can make the holiday seem a little bit brighter.
To feed your soul, you have to feed your stomach.
Nothing flashy, but a way to bring people together from afar. Andrea Ross, CBC News, Vancouver.
To the latest restrictions now, and BC's public safety minister says the province is considering ramping up repercussions for repeat COVID offenders. There are some people and groups, including churches, that continue to flout the provincial health orders. Mike Farnworth had this message for them today.
They have been ticketed, and they will be ticketed again and again and again for each time they contravene these orders. I can tell you that we are looking, I've asked my ministry to look at how we may look at increasing fines for repeat offenders.
And he says, fortunately, the majority of British Columbians are following the rules.
Well, with Christmas just weeks away and restrictions in effect right through until the new year, you may still have some questions about what you can and can't do this holiday season. So coming up a little later in the show, BC's Deputy Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Johanna Wagstaffe, will be joining us to answer all of your COVID-19 questions. You can email them to us at bcasks@cbc.ca or give us a call, 604-662-6801. And a reminder, keep those questions concise so we can get in as many as possible. If you're watching online, by the way, you can also add your question to the comment section of the Facebook or YouTube live streams.
Two Vancouver police officers have been charged in the 2018 arrest of a black man in downtown Vancouver. They are facing assault-related charges.
The violent takedown was recorded on a cell phone camera. And as Mira Baines reports, Jameel Moore-Williams, a former UBC football player, arrested for allegedly jaywalking, couldn't be happier tonight.
because I'm black crossing the street, because I'm getting robbed.
Back in February of 2018, Jameel Moore Williams is seen in this cell phone video being violently arrested by Vancouver police officers. The former UBC football player and personal trainer was taken by surprise on hearing about charges against 2 officers.
You just feel like nothing can happen to the police. You feel like they're untouchable per se, but we're seeing that change is about. This is good. This is good.
The BC Prosecution Service announced 2 VPD officers have been charged. Constable Jared Sidhu with VPD is charged with 1 count of assault with a weapon, and Constable Jagpreet Guman with 1 count of assault. Vancouver police say they are both still currently on active duty, and that since the case is before the courts, is not commenting further. In a civil lawsuit, Moore Williams alleges that while giving his ID to officers with his right hand, additional officers moved in. They are seen grabbing Moore Williams' arms and legs, sending him to the ground. In the lawsuit, Vancouver police officers are then accused of kicking and hitting him in the head and body before eventually tasering him 7 to 14 times at close range. VPD charged him with jaywalking and obstruction of justice, but those charges were dropped. An investigation by RCMP failed to recommend charges against the officers, but the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner then reviewed the file and sent it to the Prosecution Service.
We came to a different conclusion. We felt, the Commissioner particularly determined that the conduct of those officers did warrant criminal charges.
Moore Williams says he's looking forward to getting justice.
It hurts, to be honest with you. It hurts every single day, but at the same time, I gotta smile. We're moving in the right direction. I can't dwell on it too much. That's just gonna make me feel down, right?
The officers, Sidhu and Guman, are scheduled to appear in court on January 14th. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
To the cost of policing now, and Vancouver City Council has frozen the VPD's budget for next year, leaving it $6 million short of what the force was asking for. Vancouver Police had asked for a bump to around $347 million and pushed back against a potential cut. But their budget will instead remain unchanged from this year at around $341 million.
Well, many groups feel they've been left behind when it comes to getting help during the pandemic.
As Yvette Brent explains, Canadian alcohol distillers are wondering why millions were spent on imports of hand sanitizer, even after they stepped up to provide it for free when Canada needed it most.
When the pandemic first hit, hand sanitizer was the first to go.
We need a sustainable, stable supply of these products. And that means making them at home.
Trudeau's call to action was heard in southern BC.
This is where all the magic really happens.
A lot of hand sanitizer flowed out of Tyler Dyke's family-run distillery. The whiskey stills have been pumping it out since March.
At that moment, felt that it was our duty as a family and as distillers to kind of pivot and change away from making beautiful spirits to drink to hopefully to do something that would help keep our community safe.
The distillery gave tens of thousands of litres to hospitals, government offices, schools, nursing homes, even police and Canada Post. Dyke anticipated government compensation.
It's just, we're still waiting to hear. And so I'm still very hopeful.
Canada has paid for sanitizer from other sources. Now it's contracting big chemical producers. Canada also paid $250 million to a car company to produce hand sanitizer in China. At the same time in Grand Forks, BC, it flowed for free.
It's awesome. I get to feel like I was able to help with something that can be really scary.
Put the end in there.
Samantha Stewart's parents run this distillery. It ran 24 hours a day for 6 months to pump out sanitizer.
Weeks went by, months went by. We start seeing tanker loads of sanitizer coming into Vancouver Harbour and being distributed, and no contracts for BC companies. It was a little bit concerning.
Companies wouldn't do this to produce material without a contract. But we were in very different times, and these people thought they were going to do the right thing and help the country.
Ottawa offered no money, just a thank you. We are immensely proud of how Canadian industry has stepped up, keeping our supply chains running and helping each other in a time of need.
Extremely disappointing.
Dyke says distillers could easily make all of Canada's hand sanitizer.
If it is true that money was being spent and going offshore, that would feel like a sucker punch to the gut.
We feel abandoned. We really do.
Still, he says, no regrets. People needed sanitizer, and he was there. Yvette Brand, CBC News, Vancouver.
Our meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe is here, looking actually pretty dry considering the day we've had. I mean, at least it's warm.
Both silver linings, Tanya. Yes, the rain has ended, and yeah, it is pretty mild out here. We are getting behind the atmospheric river finally. After a good deluge across parts of the south coast, the mountains seeing over 100 millimeters of rain. Parts of Metro Vancouver now over 70 millimeters. Take a look at the satellite and radar, though. We can see those mild temperatures hanging on to the high single digits across the Pacific Northwest. Temperatures will stay mild through the overnight. We're still in that flow coming to us from the Hawaiian Islands and still seeing steadier rain for southern parts of Vancouver Island and out towards the valley, still getting clipped. And I still think we'll see some showers overnight here in Metro Vancouver, lingering into your Wednesday morning. But the worst is definitely beyond us. Well, maybe some of you were enjoying the heavy rain today. We've actually got some sunshine in the forecast, I'm happy to report. Not all the models were in agreement earlier this week, but I'll take you through some breaks tomorrow and possibly into Thursday, and maybe even a decent weekend. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but details coming out.
I like it when those models disagree. Thanks, Joe. Talk to you again in a bit. And just a quick reminder, you can also watch this newscast live on the free CBC Gem app.
And CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
Margaret Keenan, who turns 91 next week, became the first person in the UK to receive the COVID-19 vaccine this morning. Coming up, more on what public health officials there are calling V-Day and the UK's vaccine rollout plan.
And thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. Well, a PEI cat has become all the rage on TikTok.
Yes, his name is Resner, and with millions of likes, people think this tabby is the cat's meow. Have a look.
Resner is a almost 14-year-old chonky orange tabby cat. Oh, he's quite the guy. He's very dramatic. He loves attention. He loves to be pet, and he's obsessed with me. That's pretty much it. Where you see me, you see him. A lot of people had more free time, I guess you could say, during quarantine, and I always told myself I would never go on TikTok. I thought it was for, the younger generation, but my friends kind of got into it, and so did I. And then I started noticing that there was a big area there for cats. I laugh about it a lot. Obviously, I'm very excited. Who wouldn't want to have a famous animal? People start making requests, and then I start fulfilling those requests. So it's more of like an interactive thing, and I think that his fans and followers really like that. We call them boop requests, where you just kind of touch the little nose. I'll just go boop, and then I'll just press send. He's had them from Ethiopia, from Malaysia, from Australia, just far and wide, honestly, places that I can't even pronounce.
Resner's got a pretty solid wardrobe going there as well.
Pretty good life, yeah.
Very nice. Well, the pandemic has forced people to keep their distance, and distance was this year's theme for a gingerbread contest in Sweden. The creations featuring people like climate activist Greta Thunberg.
While the public can't physically be there to see them, the organizers have come up with a plan to view the baked exhibits from the safety of their own homes.
So what we've basically done is that we've 3D scanned all of the gingerbread houses that we normally show in this exhibition space physically, and instead we have turned them into 3D versions of themselves. So now you get to experience them as AR models that appear on your camera phone when you visit the website, basically. If we look at this first one, you can see Greta when she's traveling on the Atlantic Ocean to New York, which is a quite familiar view to the people that have been following Greta on her travels. And then if we go to this next one, we can also see Greta where she's on the strike outside of Arlanda Airport.
Do you expect Christmas 2021 to be back to normal?
We hope so, at least, because it's always so nice to be able to meet all the people, and especially the bakers that come here. But until then, we're really happy to be able to offer this virtual experience.
Tasty too.
Sure do, no kidding. We'll be back in just a few moments with more COVID news from across the country and around the world. Welcome back. Going one province over now, and Jason Kenney has told Albertans they're getting more public health measures. Alberta currently leads the country in contagion per capita, 1,727 new cases today alone, and a test positivity rate of nearly 10%. Alison Dempster has more on the announcement and the response, and whether it'll have an impact in time to stave off disaster.
It just came in like a wrecking ball and destroyed my life.
Ashley Antonio didn't think she'd get sick with COVID-19, let alone become a long hauler. But months later, the fatigue, the brain fog, and the shortness of breath still linger.
I think people just need to know that there are a lot of us, and it can happen to you too.
An average of more than 1,700 Albertans now join the ranks of the infected every day. 2 weeks ago, the province rolled out some stricter measures, but the Premier resisted calls for a lockdown, saying he didn't want to infringe on personal freedoms. Since that announcement, Alberta has reported more than 150 deaths from the virus.
If stronger action is not taken now, we know that hundreds or potentially thousands more Albertans could die. We cannot let that happen. We will not let that happen.
Under the new measures, effective immediately, masks are mandatory in public indoor spaces across the province, not just in Calgary and Edmonton. All indoor and outdoor gatherings are banned, and starting Monday, restaurants, casinos, and hair salons will be shut down. Malls and retail businesses can stay open with tighter rules on capacity. In Calgary, some accept the need for more restrictions.
Nobody likes it, but if it's going to yield results and then bring these cases down, then I guess you do what you got to do. But not happy about it, but we're going to do our part.
I just mostly worry about small businesses and those people that would just more directly be affected.
I think it should have happened sooner. I mean, the writing was on the wall after Thanksgiving.
For some doctors and public health experts, the more aggressive measures are overdue.
There's at least tenfold, maybe much more than that, number of active cases in all of our communities right now than there were back in the spring. And so the risk is just measurably that much higher. So I think that the restrictions have to be that much broader.
Large-scale vaccinations against COVID-19 are underway in the United Kingdom. About 50 hospitals across the country started administering the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine this morning. The very first recipient was Margaret Keenan. The grandmother from Coventry turns 91 years old next week. She says the injection is the best birthday present she could wish for. Keenan has been in self-isolation for nearly a year and hopes to be able to spend Christmas with a few members of her family. British officials hope to vaccinate 400,000 people over the next few weeks. Well, nurses are among the most essential of essential workers, especially during this pandemic.
And tonight we turn our focus to three of them, one each in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto, juggling risks, supply shortages, and their own well-being.
CBC's David Common shares their experiences from the front lines.
When Canada's first COVID patient arrived at Toronto's Sunnybrook Hospital in January, we knew so little and feared so much. It was Clarice Shen who cared for that man. He'd end up in the intensive care unit, and she would follow, taking on 12-hour shifts when more nurses were needed for the coming surge.
We knew that he was a suspected COVID patient. At the time, we didn't even have a name for the virus, really. We were just calling it N2019.
It's been a steep learning curve for a young professional who just graduated from nursing school.
They get sick really, really fast. They can present to the hospital with very mild symptoms, and they can progress very, very quickly to the point where they need to go on a ventilator.
When they're that vulnerable, the results can be almost unbelievable.
I was taking care of this patient on a ventilator, and he has this thing where his body just automatically does a little twitching motion where his teeth bite down on the ventilator, and his teeth were actually coming out. Like he had bitten off a part of his tongue and his teeth were coming out.
One of the particular tortures of COVID is that, particularly in those early days, those who died did so without family around them.
There have been instances where I've had to fill that role for patients, and even though I try my best, and it's very sad, because these are people who have lived very full, vibrant lives.
There is one patient in particular who Clarice remembers.
I'm trying to comfort this woman in her last moments, but all I can really tell her is that I love the color of her nails and that her hair is beautiful and that her daughters love her. So I eventually just told her over and over again that her daughters love her. They wish that they could be here. I just told her that over and over again until she passed.
Clarice has seen a lot of death this year, and it's taking a toll on her and her colleagues.
It's causing us some burnout for everybody because there's so many patients that are coming in with these advanced needs. Last week you had 2 COVID patients in the hospital, and this week you have like 15, and you have 6 waiting in the ER, and you have no beds in your ICU. And then you're trying to get people out of the ICU who would benefit potentially from a few more days of staying there.
Sometimes the caregivers become the infected. It happened on the job to Shay Fleming, a cardiac nurse at Calgary's Foothills Hospital.
I was one of the first people to test positive coming from my workplace. Head cold, some shortness of breath, cough, runny nose, lost my sense of taste and smell. For the most part, I couldn't get out of bed.
She's turning to yoga to center her after a 2-month fight with lingering symptoms. So significant, she's been unable to work for 2 months.
That shortness of breath and that chest tightness and heaviness has still been one of the most frustrating parts, for sure.
Not just frustrating, Shay also feels shame. However misplaced, guilt that while sick, she hasn't been able to help her colleagues.
As a 29-year-old, having shortness of breath and not being able to walk a kilometer down the pathway, makes you feel pretty shameful as well.
Fleming's return to work coincided with a major jump in cases in Alberta, adding to the stress.
Our ultimate goal is to care for people. And I think right now that's really difficult for us because we're trying so hard to care for these patients and do what we have always wanted to do as a nurse, but it's just, there seems to be no end in sight at this moment.
There is always more from Megan Tumath. She's worked abroad this year for the World Health Organization.
There you go, yeah.
And is also a street nurse to Vancouver's homeless population, loading supplies for the downtown east side, struggling with multiple challenges at once.
So the sort of twinning of the overdose crisis as well as COVID-19, and then on top of that, people are still struggling with HIV and hepatitis C and other infections.
Challenges her patients face are also starkly different than those in hospital.
Making sure if someone's homeless and we ask them to self-isolate, we have to give them the tools to do that safely. And so a big part of our early work in the first wave and now the second is finding safe places for people to self-isolate. So then I'm going to take it from the loops.
Tumath also trains shelter workers and community agencies.
We offer suggestions for improving infection prevention and control in those settings.
And she helped repatriate Canadians from Wuhan, China last year.
Mask part is outside.
In so doing, so too became infected, a physical toll and a mental one too, for a nurse who's called upon to work around the world.
The thing I worry about most is the impact on my family. We have 2 kids, and I'm grateful to my husband to be supportive. Like, I have a drawer full of letters to them just in case I don't come back. I hope that they can understand that I felt called to respond, but that I hope they stay safe.
A heavy burden with added discouragement when, for all she's seen, experienced herself, there are still those who deny COVID's dangers.
I think it's really combating the myths and rumors and investing enough in good democratic institutions and communication, and really making sure the public understands their role in this.
Even in those moments of letdown, there are far more gratifying ones, she says.
It's pretty rewarding to be able to offer them a safe place to be, or to just be part of a team that is treating people with respect.
One in a remarkable group of frontline workers. David Common, CBC News, Toronto.
Coming up, got COVID-19 questions? Send them to us by phone, email, or on social media. Details on your screen there. Many of you have done that already. We're going to put those questions to BC's Deputy Provincial Health Officer right after this break.
Last-minute rush to buy Christmas presents has begun. Some of us will be buying on credit at a time when Canadians owe more money than ever before. Consumer debt now stands at $32 billion, which means the average working Canadian is $3,000 in debt, a level some people feel is dangerously high.
Mr. Smith, what would you say created the problem?
Across the country, debt counselling services like the government's Debtors Assistance Board here in BC are building longer and longer waiting lists of people needing help. They're seeing people now with bigger and bigger debts, among them even professional people with substantial salaries. It's now certain that a record number of Canadians will be driven into personal bankruptcy this year.
I believe that the credit industry is no less than 50% responsible, and the consumer to be 50% responsible. I think it's certainly a 50-50 split. The industry has responsibilities to educate and inform people of the limits that are there for credit. The individual has the responsibility to understand his limits.
Competition in the profitable business of lending money is fierce. Lenders, it seems, have come to regard even the rising number of uncollectible debts as just a necessary cost of doing business.
Well, I think the social responsibility as far as a credit grantor is going to come is when our bad debts would grow. I think as long as our bad debt percentage is the same as it has been for years, I think there's no reason that we are going to all of a sudden cut off people's credit.
But rising losses are forcing credit grantors to fill in the gaps in their early warning system. Computer-stored credit records now flash coast-to-coast warnings on those who already defaulted. But consumers groups say the industry is not using its technology to prevent trouble, to stop consumers from slipping over their heads in debt.
I would ask them to do a lot more checking and, in fact, to be tougher with people. I think, for example, we don't want any more situations like one I became aware of just today, in fact, where a credit card grantor allowed the charge account to go up to $9,000. Now, there's something wrong there, and I think those credit card holders should have been told long before it got to those proportions, halt, that's enough.
The Consumers Association says the present situation equally highlights the need for improved consumer education on the do's and don'ts of credit. That, they say, should be delivered right in the schools. Colin Holt, CBC News, Vancouver.
Some of the stories we're following tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Premier John Horgan says about 4,000 high-risk people in BC will get the COVID-19 vaccine by the end of next week. Details on the province's immunization program for the virus will be released tomorrow. Today, Dr. Bonnie Henry is reporting 16 more deaths from COVID-19, bringing BC's total to 543. There are 566 new cases, the lowest number of cases since November 17th.
Starting December 18th, people will be able to apply online for the benefit. Up to 3.7 million British Columbians will be eligible for this benefit.
The NDP finally unveils the rollout plan for its $1,000 pandemic relief benefit. You will have to apply to get it. The online process opens December 18th. For those who do apply right away, that money is expected to hit your bank account by Christmas. The benefit is based on a sliding income scale, so households making under $125,000 combined are eligible for the full $1,000. Single people making less than $62,500 can get $500.
We really think that this is a way to come out and experience some holiday cheer and celebration in a way that is very, very safe.
One of the few social activities still allowed this holiday season, drive-through events. With so many traditions scratched this year, organizers are scrambling to get creative, but the extended restrictions are a big blow to charities that rely on these events at this time of year. They're now trying to come up with other ways to raise money instead.
Well, tighter COVID restrictions are set to remain with us through Christmas and into the new year. And you may have some questions ahead about the holidays and about what's safe and what's not. Here to answer those is BC's Deputy Provincial Health Officer, Dr. Johanna Wagstaffe. Thanks so much for joining us, Doctor.
My pleasure.
So Christmas is just a few weeks away. What do you say to people who plan to ignore the rules blatantly and celebrate with those outside of their immediate household?
Well, I think what we really need to think about today is that we are all together in this effort to dampen transmission. We need to do what we can to reduce transmission in our community, to keep ourselves and our loved ones and our community safe. And sometimes I think people who consider celebrating with others even assume, well, I'm only putting myself at risk. But keep in mind that every single person who gets sick could transmit to someone else. And if you're in hospital, if you end up in the ICU, it's an enormous pressure on your family and on the healthcare system. So by protecting yourself, you're actually protecting others, and so it is a difficult time for everybody. It's a brief time for in the big picture, and I think we have demonstrated in British Columbia what we can achieve when we work together.
I got a lot of questions coming in, Dr. Wagstaffe. Here's one from Jennifer. We're getting a lot of questions about the bubble. I think there is a lot of still confusion about what a bubble is. I don't know why there is, but there appears to be. Here's one from Jennifer. What is considered your bubble if you're living alone? And with the restrictions that are in place through the new year, can grandkids see their grandparents if they visit them on a regular basis and spend time with them at Christmas?
So generally, if you're living by yourself, your bubble would be considered people up to 2 people with whom you interact regularly. And again, it's important to keep in mind that these rules that we provide people is really to help understanding and sort of getting into the details of exactly what is or is not your bubble can be a little bit difficult. What we recommend for people is to interact with their immediate household, or if they're living alone, with a very small number of people with whom they interact regularly. And the recommendation is 2 people. And that's to keep, to help people understand what is an essential interaction that you have every single day versus a social interaction that you can choose not to have for a brief period of time.
Dr. Gustafson, we want to talk about vaccines now. We've had a lot of questions about this with all the positive news on the horizon. We have one from Twitter that says, after you get the vaccine, do you still need to wear a mask, social distance, etc.? And does getting it make you asymptomatic? And are there any side effects?
So there's a lot of questions. Is that once you're immunized with 2 doses, we have some very encouraging data that implies that you are protected. But one of the things that we are likely to recommend until while COVID-19 is being transmitted in the community is that people maintain the social distancing, the hand washing, the wearing of masks when required, and that's because it is important to remember that this is something that we do together, and when you're walking down the street, people don't necessarily know whether you are immunized or not. And so it is important that until we reach that level of community herd immunity through immunization that actually reduces transmission, there will be ongoing risk to others, even if you are yourself protected. One of the things that we want to know as we monitor vaccination is what proportion of the population will need to be immunized before transmission is completely stopped. With respect to side effects, again, the vaccines aren't yet approved in Canada, though we expect that to happen imminently. What we know is that the side effects that have been reported are the ones that are common with vaccination, which is redness, some pain at the injection site, sometimes some muscle ache, some fatigue. So all the kinds of side effects that can be managed very easily at home and are very common and not particularly concerning around vaccines. And if you don't mind repeating the third part of the question, I don't remember what the other part was.
I think you already answered it. It was about the side effects. So you nailed them all. Thank you.
Okay, the Premier said earlier today that 4,000 high-risk people will be getting vaccinations by the end of next week. Sharon wants to know, how will the first groups be notified of their vaccination? Should people who are 80 plus contact their family doctor, or will it be like the regular flu shot at the local drugstore? I know we're going to hear some details tomorrow, but can you shed any light on that?
So the exact mechanisms of set of people will be identified is going to be shared in the coming days. Of course, this is a situation that is evolving very, very rapidly. We know that our priority groups are going to be people who are older and also people who work in long-term care facilities. So we have mechanisms to identify individuals, certainly the smaller number of individuals who are in those groups, and each site will be notifying those individuals. So at the moment, we would not be asking people to contact their local pharmacy. This is a very small number of vaccines at the very beginning, and the implementation will be rolled out stepwise over the coming weeks.
More broadly speaking, I've heard a lot of questions about this as well. People don't want to be in that first group to get it or be the guinea pigs, as they call it. What do you say to those people? And if they choose not to get the vaccine, at least not right away, what does that mean for them? Do they have to mask and physical distance indefinitely?
Well, I would say that vaccinations are one of the most successful public health interventions we've had in this century and in the previous century around the world. Vaccines are safe, they are effective, they protect you from an infection that is normally not just a risk to you, but as you see, it's turned our world upside down. So the way I see vaccination is that the fact that these vaccines have come to market is a testament to our determination and ingenuity of all those folks who were involved in the development of the vaccine, and I would encourage everybody to receive the vaccine as soon as they can to protect themselves and to protect those around them. Vaccines work in not a very mysterious way. They teach your immune system how to respond to a virus when you actually meet the virus. It's like exercise for your immune system. And the way you exercise varies from one vaccine to another, but the basic concept is the same. So I think I'm very, very confident and very encouraged by the fact that this vaccine is coming to the market. And we know that COVID-19 can have significant effects for you, and especially your loved ones if they are older, and vaccination is your best bet.
Okay, here's one emailer asking, our son is getting married in 2 weeks, so just before Christmas. Can we have a dinner with just the immediate families?
So again, at the moment, so the answer is, sorry, I just need a moment. So we do not, at the moment, dinners that would involve multiple families are prohibited. So at the moment, while there can be a wedding ceremony with a small number of people, the reception afterwards is not permitted at this time. That would be considered a social gathering.
Just one last question here, Dr. Gustafson. I mean, we've had these restrictions in place now for a number of weeks. The daily case count remains high. Is that a surprise to you? And should we have seen more of a drop-off more quickly than now?
Actually, no. I would say that the number of cases have flattened. I think we need to, we are seeing a flattening of those cases. And this is actually around the time that we would expect to start seeing significant impact. So originally, as you know, these restrictions were put in place where we were seeing very concerning growth. Soon after those restrictions were put in place, the growth slowed down, and now there is flattening. So no, that's not surprising. This is actually how this disease works. This is how these restrictions work. And we know that we are imposing these restrictions in the middle of winter or at the beginning of winter, and we now know that transmission is much more likely to happen during the winter months. So the fact that we are seeing these effects is encouraging and really working exactly when we expect it to work. And again, a testament to the fact that most British Columbians are doing what they can to help us reduce transmission.
We have enough questions to keep you here for another 2 hours, Dr. Gustafson, but that's all the time we have. Thanks once again for doing this tonight. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
And at 6:45, a live shot of downtown Vancouver looking towards the North Shore. There was so much rain in the past 24 hours and still more to come. Johanna Wagstaffe will break down the precipitation totals coming up next.
The Market Report is brought to you by Fortis BC. We've got even bigger rebates.
Rebate.
Whoa! On select high-efficiency equipment for business, but only for a limited time.
Johanna Wagstaffe back with the forecast now. It's finally dry after what I like to call a very wet rain today. Very, very wet.
I think that's how I would describe it, yes, as opposed to the less wet rain that we sometimes get. No, you're right. There were big raindrops coming down at high frequency. Yeah, this was not the stuff of mist. I'll say. Take a look at the current temperatures right now. Still in the same air mass that brought the atmospheric river over the past couple of days, an 8 at YVR. But this time yesterday, we were still hanging on to a 10. So we are starting to get behind the river. And if you look at the big picture in the satellite, you can see the edge of that cloud band beginning to sink down across the province. That's the edge of the river. Still bringing some good snow to the interior. I thought so. They just ended the rainfall warning. We did end up with close to 90 millimeters across parts of Metro Vancouver, over 100 millimeters for our local mountains. Rivers, creeks, and streams are running very high over the next 24 hours, so heads up there. Snowfall warnings are still in place, though, for the Trans-Canada up through Rogers Pass. All right, taking you through the overnight, and we will continue to see a few showers just move in behind the main system. Right through to tomorrow morning, a risk of a shower through mid-morning hours, but also a good chance of seeing the sun break through. We've got a little mini high pressure system that'll bring us some sunny breaks through your Wednesday. Some cloud in there as well. It's not a bluebird sky day, but a nice mix of sun and cloud. And I'm running through Thursday morning as well. Cloudy, but notice that things are looking pretty dry. So big picture, our low pressure system directing that atmospheric river moving off to the east. High pressure moves in for Wednesday, but it quickly skirts off to the east, so it's opening the door to the next Pacific system. I don't think it'll get here until Friday, so that's why I've got a mainly dry Thursday on tap as well. 6 in through Kamloops for tomorrow, and I think we'll see a good 1 to 2 centimeters of snow in through Kelowna. But look at that. I've managed to find a way to put a sunny icon in almost every single day, and I think there's some truth to that too, so I'll keep you posted.
Mini high pressure system, my favorite words from you tonight. Thanks so much,
Me too.
Johanna.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, players forced off the ice by the pandemic are finding a new place to play hockey right in their own backyard. That story's next.
My elves are back. Woo-hoo! The reason that the idea started was because I created a bucket list. The bucket list was created because I am terminally ill with cancer. And one of the last items on said bucket list is to save a neighborhood. I did not know how to save a neighborhood until I heard that the Christmas cheerboard was struggling this year. Then it was like, ding, ding, light bulb. Now we know how to save a neighborhood. We've got everything from treats to baking goods, to potatoes, oranges, apples, onions. What isn't in the boxes is what somebody should be asking me. Santa said to me, hey lady, you got like some time to kill? Help me out this year. We have 11 families entirely to take care of this. And they're amazing people. They're amazing people that I hope to keep to friends for the rest of my time on the earth. One in each van, please. We have families that are on single parent incomes, no income. These families came up and I believe them and I love them already and I picked them. Woo! Here we go! Let them know we're here. Are you guys ready? Hello! Hello, Mama! They just had to hit some musical string inside of me, and they were picked. Well, I think maybe a bit early. I could have spent 10 months, 12 months in the hospital, regardless of what I would have chosen. I would have never been able to beat the last part. You got everything for family too? Yeah. Woo! I just can't believe that there are this many humans that are willing to help other humans. I won the lottery, and all I did was help them maybe an inch, and they came back a mile. 85 items are in my bucket list. There are 2 left to do. Only 1 I'm willing to share. As soon as Gimli will allow me, my husband and I are gonna jump out of a perfectly good plane.
Welcome back. The pandemic has put a lot of things on ice, including hockey.
From the NHL to the very earliest levels of minor league hockey, it's all been disrupted.
But as Cameron McIntosh is finding out, instead of hanging up the skates, many are now looking for a new place to skate and are heading straight into the backyard.
When you just want the kids outside, it's bound to happen.
One of us, I don't know who, took a slap shot and it just broke the board.
And guess what, Mom and Dad?
There's a big one over there, went straight through.
With real hockey not happening, the only actual ice Jake and Luke Mishkowski can get is the backyard.
The games, because I don't get to have that this year, and so it's like, well, at least it's something to do.
All of it. We had 3 practices a week, and I got none of that now. It's a little bit different with COVID, but we get by.
They're far from the only ones. In many places, arenas are closed, outdoor rinks aren't even being flooded, making the best option to find a place to skate also the last option. Peek over the fence, an unofficial season is playing out. Do-it-yourself rinks proliferating in backyards. From simple ice slabs to Pinterest-proud ponds. Check out the light show on that one.
Then you drop a liner inside.
Jim and Tyler Stoller own Nice Rink, which sells liners, boards, kits across North America. A major Canadian retailer just came calling.
This year's anything but normal. We're easily double up right now, and just everyone's just running ragged as much as they can, nights, weekends.
Then there's Ryan Starkle. Building rinks started off as a side job to make some holiday money. Now he's flooded, literally, with full-time work.
Kind of ended up being way too much demand, and having troubles keeping up with it, to be honest.
In Winnipeg, the urge to skate is so great, the mayor had to warn against skating on thin ice, as only essential facilities operate.
Skating isn't one of them right now unless it's in a backyard rink.
Their season reduced to a frozen 12 by 10 meter bubble. Jake and Luke just figured this is where they should be.
You can get pretty fast if you go in circles.
Taking it to the pandemic and the fence. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Love those backyard rinks. Hey, just before we go tonight, the Jack Webster Awards are happening right now, online, virtually, like almost everything. And CBC's won a couple of awards tonight, including a new award for diversity and inclusion for When Is Enough Enough? That's CBC Town Hall on the downtown east side that we did back in September of 2019.
And we also, looks like, just won another one, Excellence in Digital Journalism. This is for tracking COVID-19 in BC. Everyone's become accustomed to tuning into the 3 p.m. Briefings with Dr. Bonnie Henry and Health Minister Adrian Dix. So I know a lot of people turning digital these days, and we appreciate that award as well. So thanks so much.
And thank you for watching tonight. Dan's here at 11, right after the National.
Good night.
Good night.